So how do we deal with the abstract threats in our life? Well, I think we've discussed before that in discussion, in conversation, even debate, if you want to call it that, but in the feedback process of having a conversation, we can let the best parts come to the surface because everyone, might see those that's involved, whether it's just a one-on-one conversation, even a conversation with yourself. You can distill out the good parts that conclusions maybe that you reach and what you should do, how you should conduct your life, really into what is the meaning of life. And if you can't put forth your ideas and discuss them, then maybe, wouldn't say 100%, but maybe you should really think that if I cannot discuss this with someone who thinks differently, maybe that's a bad idea and it should go away. I don't, think about that for a second. If you can't put it forth, then maybe it shouldn't be put forth and discussed. Currently there's a fight in our society right now about, are there more than two genders? And of course there's tons of fights you could pick out at any time, and I'm not, necessarily talking about that itself, but if you cannot sit and discuss your point on it with someone who feels differently, then maybe that's not a good point. And I really like to put that forth because one side of these debates seems to be willing to engage in debate, conversation, discussion. One side does not. Now we'll reiterate, if you're not willing to discuss it, if you're not willing to go through it, then maybe it should just die. Because if you lack the fortitude to put it forth and the other side is willing to, well, that speaks volumes. That you really aren't that confident in it if you're not willing to put it to the test. It's a bit like if you made a boat, but you never rowed the boat. You just decided that, I'm going to make this fantastic boat. You talk about how great it is, how structurally sound it is. You made it with your own two hands. You grew the trees yourselves and chopped it down with an axe that you made, that you tempered, and that you built this fine boat. But you never sail it. You never take it out in the water. Well, how do you actually know that it's even seaworthy, if you want to call it that, or lake-worthy? Well, you don't. It has to be tested. And conversation is a way that you can test it without dying. I'm going to take this out in, on the high seas. Dump me off in the middle of the Atlantic. First time. Well, no, you can try it, in a local lake. So if it sinks down right to the bottom, you can just get back okay. No problems, right? And I think that's the way we do need to view our conversations. And it doesn't have to be adversarial. It's just a way of putting forth a measure of sorts, a test of sorts, so that we can tell and get the feedback on what we're doing. And I think if both sides, or 20 sides, or whatever sides there are on this, if everyone participating in the discussion looks at it like that, it will be much more productive for all of us, and the best stuff will rise to the surface. We will get the good stuff. And it might be a synthesis, it might be part and parcel of different parts of things, right? But we'll get the best of everything. And I really think that's the only way that we can move forward on our discussions is with that understanding. Another thing I feel that people often use to avoid discussion is they say something negative about the other person, or that person was mean to me, or that person's a racist, or that person's a homophobe, or that person's a religious person, they're a religious nut, or they're a Scientologist. You name it. Everybody probably has a few things that they really dislike, and they don't want to talk to a person that has these sorts of things. But I would also argue that those are probably the people that you should talk to the most, because that is where you're going to get the most feedback. Going back to our boat example, splashing water on the boat is not really testing its integrity, right? And to be perfectly honest, even putting it in a lake isn't testing it that much either. It's a good first step, but once you've done the water test, maybe you spray a hose on it, right? Take it to the lake, take it into the ocean. Take it through a storm in the ocean. If your boat survived all those tests, you know you've got some craftsmanship in that boat. But if it only ever sits in your backyard and gets rained on, and that's your measure, that's no measure at all, really. And so I would actually encourage discussion with those who are most opposed to whatever viewpoint you have from whatever side, because that is where you will get the most feedback. And I would try to view it more as a discussion. I know a lot of people get ego involved, that if I lose the discussion, if I can't answer for something, then, I've lost face. But I think, too, something that we need to remember is that this discussion is ongoing forever. And it was here before we were on this earth, and it will be here after we are on this earth. So that we are only trying to add to the discussion, not detract from the discussion. And if you're mainly concerned about your ego, that might be good for the short term, but I don't know how good that is for the long term. Because we all make mistakes, we all look foolish at times, and we all will get new information. I do think that arguing from a different place, with a little bit of humility, probably helps everyone, but everyone's different too. Some people go in like a bull in a china shop talking about things, and sometimes those people are very admirable for doing that. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there's one way the discussion must be had, but if we start with the base understanding that we're trying to get the best out of it, and people are allowed to make mistakes. People are allowed to have a bad day. I used to like watching Christopher Hitchens quite a bit debate. Fortunately, it's preserved. The posterity is online on a lot of these discussions. But he didn't do good in all of his debates either. I think it's nice to people have more of a romanticized view of him now and forget some of the negatives. But he didn't always win all those debates. I remember one in particular debate where it was against the creationism or God. Just God, I think in general, was the debate. Does God exist or not? And I remember one debate where a guy walloped him good. And it was more later on, too, in his career. Not near the beginning. Very good. But it was a good discussion on both sides. And I felt that both people were arguing earnestly and honestly from their viewpoints is very important. And I do appreciate a discussion where people do take it seriously, because then you're not wasting my time, right? Just like this discussion now. I do think it's important because in our current society, we seem to have I don't know if we ever knew these. I assume that we did know these things already, but they seem to have gotten lost in just a power struggle of yelling. And there does seem to be one side that is more open to discussion than the other side on a lot of these issues. Why can't we talk about abortion? Why can't we talk about, society's role in marriage? Why are these no-go things? I would like to think that we should discuss problem areas more, actually. More discussion is needed to sort these things out properly, not less and not avoiding. Because anytime you avoid a problem, it just gets worse, right? You don't have money for a bill? Call the company, right? That's the smart thing to do. Call the company and say, I don't have money for this. Maybe they'll give you a break. Maybe they won't. You never know till you try, though. But just avoiding it month after month is just going to make it worse. And because a lot of our threats have gone to the abstract, it's a little bit easier. You can't avoid, I haven't eaten in 2 days. That is going to demand attention from even the most, any sort of person. It doesn't matter who you are. If you haven't eaten in 2 days, that's all you're going to be thinking about, and that's going to be your entire focus. But a lot of our abstract threats we're able to distract ourselves from. I guess avoid isn't really the right word quite. It's more like we distract ourselves. We have unlimited entertainment options before us right now, from our phones to TV to YouTube, we're listening to right now. You could sit here and listen to prank videos probably. There's enough prank videos on YouTube that you could probably watch them every day for like 8 hours for like the rest of your life. And you wouldn't run out because they're always making more anyways. But that's not helping you to decide what you should do necessarily with your life. Watching a prank video, watching a couple a day, not a problem if that's your thing, right? But we do have unlimited entertainment options, which really wasn't an option before for people. That wasn't, I can't even imagine. It's almost like if you take the modern person and you were to transplant them to 1,000 years ago, I really wonder what the shock would be like. I think it would be worse for us to go back in time than to take that person from 1000 AD and put them to now. I almost think the culture shock would be worse for us in some ways. But who knows? That's just idle speculation. But thanks for listening. Talk to you later. Bye.